Hello everyone, it's Belinda Weaver here and it's AMA Day. That means it's time you get to ask me anything. These are the kind of sessions that I have in my membership, Confident Copywriting, and I have plenty of question time in my courses, but I wanted to make time for you to pick my brain and ask me anything you would like. So if you are watching this live, I would love you to say hello. Let me know that you're there and you're tuning in and where you are and all those kind of fun things. You have to give StreamYard permission for me to see your name and face. So if you can do that too, that would be fantastic. And if you have any questions during this chat, post them in the comments. And if you're watching the replay, of course, give me a hashtag replay so that I know you're catching up. So I'm just going to check that everything's working. Oh, easier said than done. So I have got a few questions ready to go. There we go. That's nice and working. All right. The first one I'm going to kick off with is actually one that was posted in the group for the love of copy from Lorna. And she said, help, I've just been invited to submit a proposal for a gig, which says the copywriter will use provided SEO software to optimize the page content for specific keywords. We're looking for someone who can tailor the copy for SEO, but also make it sparkle. So I got a few things to say about that. Firstly, is when you're writing optimized copy, hang on a second. I've just worked from home. Kids are here asking for snacks. When you are writing optimized copy, always write for humans first. So that whole thing about write for SEO and for it to sparkle, write it so it sparkles first. Actually, write it so that it's effective, compelling, and persuasive first. Then look for opportunities to optimize it for specific keywords, right? So I just wanted to talk about the order of your thought process. Write it for humans first, then look for optimization opportunities. And when you're optimizing things, you want to use keywords as frequently as is natural, not as frequently as is possible. And sometimes SEO agencies can get a little crazy on how many times keywords should be used in copy, and you start seeing percentages, and that's keyword density. And that is not how you write well optimized copy. So I just wanted to put that out there, right? So the catch with this one is that the copywriter will use provided SEO software to optimize the copy, but it could be any type of software. So some questions, if you get a request like this, some questions are, which is the tool that you use? And I have to be upfront to say, I may not be familiar with the tools. You can provide me with keywords and I will optimize. So there's two parts to this. There's the idea that you have to use specific tools, and there's also boundary setting. If you are not comfortable using specific tools that you have been asked to use, then you can simply say, that's not a tool I've used before, and it will require some extra learning, which I will have to factor into my proposal, right? So they have to pay for that. An alternative in this case is to just say, you provide me with the keywords, 1 to 3 keywords per page that you would like the copy to be optimized for, and I will do the optimization, right? So you're not expected to learn a tool, you're not expected to buy a tool, and you're not expected to learn on your own dollar. All you need is the keywords. So the other part of this is, do they expect to find the keywords, which is another lot of extra time onto a proposal. And so, as I said, it was also about boundary setting, right? This is where you get to say, that's not something that's included in my service. That is a legitimate response. That is not, out of the realms of possibility. That is something I would totally do. This is not included in my service proposal. And if this is something that you strongly need, I can add time in to learn the tool and also add in extra time to do the keyword research, which is hours and hours of time though, right? So there's lots of bits of that request. Always be okay to go back to a prospective client with questions. Define the boundaries of what it is they're asking. Be really clear on the scope, because as soon as you start making assumptions, it will always go badly, pretty much always. So, for everyone watching, if you have questions, just pop them in the comments and I will see them and I will answer them as we go. But otherwise, we have some great questions that have come in for today and also in the Clubhouse chat that I had very recently. So, the next one I have is again from the group, and it's from Lily. What do you consider the role of a copywriter aside from writing copy? Right? I'm thinking of things like content strategy, keyword research, sales funnel analysis, backlink outreach. What do you do outside of writing words? And what would you not do? This is a great question. So this is all about how can you add value outside of your core service? And one of the things you can use to think about this and brainstorm this is what happens before someone needs a copywriter? And can I help my client get ready to work with me? And then what happens after someone works with a copywriter? And can I actually help do that? Anytime that you get involved in the strategy side of things, you can start charging more, right? So the closer you get to a client earning money, you can charge more. The more you are involved in the strategic element, that elevates how valuable you are on the team. And that is a great idea. So there are also things like tone of voice analysis. There is idea generation. Like if someone comes and asks you for a blog writing service, for example, some value adds before they're ready to work with you is ideas for blogs, voice of customer research. That's always a great one for all your projects. There is writing the blog. Then there is also repurposing the content for different types of media, right? So there's before, there's the writing, and then there's after. But I also mentioned voice of customer. There's also tone of voice work, like tone of voice guidelines that you can write. So anything that you do as part of researching, keyword research, voice of customer research, tone of voice research, screams out like a product that you can package up and also offer your clients in addition to your writing services. But if you're thinking about how can I become more valuable to my prospective clients around the copy, look at what happens before they hire you and how you can help, and look what happens after they hire you and see how you can help there, which is really cool questions. All right, so another question I have here, and remember this is an AMA, you can ask me anything. If you're a business owner who writes their own copy, you might have questions like, how do I write a great call to action? What kind of offer can I put together to help people overcome objections? If you're a copywriter, you might have questions like the ones that are coming in here. So I am keeping an eye on questions in the Facebook Live. Otherwise, I will just push on. Maybe we have a nice short one. Okay, so let's have a look here. Hang on, where are they? Here we go. How can I up my rates to existing clients who have been with me from the beginning? This is a great question because, and this was actually asked recently in my Confident Copywriting membership. I got some clients when I was just starting out and I didn't charge them nearly enough. And now we've been going on for a little bit. My rates have actually gone up twice. How do I bridge this gap, right? And so I love this question so much. The thing is, you can't keep working at your original rate because you will begin to hate the work and resent the people. And you were also blocking up time in your calendar that could be filled by essentially what we'll call full paying clients, right? But there was a sense from my Confident Copywriting member as well, but these people have been there from the beginning. And even though it's only been 6 months, I don't want to just ditch them because, they charge too much. So the first question is find out what their budget is and if they can pay more. Now, it could be that they can't. You have to be prepared to walk away. But you might say, I'd like to have a conversation about the pricing that we have in place right now, because since we started working together, I've actually put my prices up twice. So I'd love to figure out how we can close that gap, right? So that's a simple conversation. And they might say, we can't afford to pay more. And that's okay. It's okay. You have to be prepared for them to walk away. The other thing that might happen, the other thing you need to ask though is, do you have a budget around this? Find out what their max is, because what you also have to find out is what's your walkaway price. Yeah. So if you're now charging $100 an hour, and when they joined, you were charging $70 an hour. Now, this is the case for my Confident Copywriting member. She said that work is actually super easy and that they rarely have any revisions. So she might have said, I'd actually be happy to do it for $85 or $90 an hour. Okay, so that's the price you'd be prepared for. And then the conversation becomes, can you come up to $100 an hour? And they might say, yes, we can, because we want you to keep doing this. They might say, no, we can't. And if you've done this thinking work beforehand, you might say, okay, well, considering the fact that we rarely have any revisions and we have a really smooth, efficient process, what about $85 an hour? Right? So you've already seeded this idea that $100 an hour is your full price. So they will still feel like they are getting a fantastic deal at $85 an hour. And the only reason you would offer that is because it's a streamlined, easy process with almost no revisions. If this was a regular client who asked a lot of you, you would not be offering a discounted rate, right? But the goal here is to say, how can I bring them along with me and get me up to the full price? And sometimes it's just not reasonable to go, right, you have to pay $30 more an hour. And if you're not, you're out in the street, right? If they're a jerk, you might want to do that. So think with empathy, ask questions, ask to have a conversation about it, let them know your current rate, but also be really clear on how much negotiating you are willing to do on that price. But here's the thing. Pricing and discounts are not the only way to reward loyalty, right? So you might offer them other things like priority, job booking, right? And so you might offer them faster turnarounds or priority booking, make them feel like a VIP. So there's other ways that you can reward loyalty that's not offering a discount, which is kind of a little bit further away from what we're talking about, but it's important to think about. And yes, as Amanda said, don't assume they won't pay the price, but also be aware that they're used to paying this much. So they're going to feel some friction about jumping up, which is why the whole, this is my price now, but what about this price, can work really well if that's something you're happy with. Okay. And so the key in all of this is communication, right? Letting people know, as Amanda said, not making assumptions and being prepared for them to say, peace out, I can't afford that rate. Because when you clear your pipeline of the clients who are paying less and the work that you don't like, then you are making space for the clients you do like and the clients who will pay. And I know that seems scary because some of you might be thinking, I haven't got the luxury of turning work away. What? But it's absolutely true. You have to have the space for the clients you want. And if you're resenting the work, I'll wobble as I move my laptop there. If you're resenting the work that you're doing and resenting the clients you're working with because they were paying your rate from 6 months ago or a year ago, you must do something about that. That's not their fault. You have control of doing that. And thanks for admitting that, Amanda. Is so guilty of creating that story in my head, right? We do it all the time. And this is where it often pops up. Drop in the comments if this is you. You do pricing, and this is for any business. You put some pricing together, and then you're like, ooh, that's quite a big number. Gosh, well, does is it really going to take me that time? Maybe I can shave a bit of time off each product description or each page. I could probably do the voice of customer research a bit faster. Oh, well, I bet they probably won't have revisions. So I can just trim it off there. And what you've done is you've reduced your price based on something the client hasn't even said yet. You've totally had that conversation in your head. And I used to be guilty of this, right? And so this is when you can have a formula for your pricing. It plops a number out and then you do not change it. You do not change it. Do not write the story for the clients. Okay? Promise me now. Promise me you won't do that. All right. So remember, this is Ask Me Anything. This is free coaching. Drop your questions. Have you had a challenge recently? Have you had a sticky situation? Are you wondering how I do something? How do I manage my time? How do I make great snacks? How do I prep a launch? How do I manage my social media, right? Ask me. I'll tell you. But I've got these questions here. I'm just going to make sure I'm getting through them. Where have we got here? All right, this question. How many portfolio pieces do you need before you're ready to start pitching clients? Such a great question. Now, maybe put in the chat, how many do you think I'm going to say? How many would you think? What's the number you're thinking of? How many portfolio pieces do you need in your copywriting portfolio or in your business proof, whatever business you're in? How many do you think you should have before you feel credible, before you feel credible enough to actually approach someone and pitch them? I will check in the comments. I'm keeping an eye. All right, so I know it always takes a bit of a delay. So while you're all putting that in, I'm going to say none, right? Now, this is the thing. I can tell a few people might be like, what? Right. So the question is, how many portfolio pieces do I need before I can pitch a client, right? Emphasizing need before I can. A portfolio is great, but it's actually not what will convert people. Clients want to see you've done some stuff, but I speak to so many aspiring copywriters who are stuck on creating a portfolio when they're like, I don't really have many clients, or I don't have any clients, and I don't have any portfolio pieces, therefore I can't proceed. And it's absolutely not true at all. Clients want to see you've done some stuff, which is great, but you know what will convert a hell of a lot faster and easier? Relationships, networking, people who say, I know them and they're awesome. That is what will trump an empty portfolio every single time. And the other important thing is that I know a lot of copywriters who have taken their portfolio off their website, but will provide pieces on request, right? So you don't need a portfolio before you can start approaching people and saying, hey, I'm a copywriter and I can help you. Now, pitching is its whole separate thing, but I really want to dispel the idea that you need to have a portfolio, an extensive, beautiful portfolio before you can start working. And I love this comment from Amanda. I know how many I thought I needed versus actually what I actually needed. Right? And this one, I'm just putting you all up here, Amanda. I spent months doing free stuff and my first clients didn't even ask to see anything. Right? My portfolio page on my website used to be the least visited page of all the pages, right? So I say right a lot. I've been listening back. I've been reading transcripts of myself talking and I just go, right? So you don't need a portfolio. I'm not saying don't create a portfolio. What I'm saying is it's not the huge mountain that you might think it is. Clients want to know that you've done some stuff, but you can communicate that in other ways. You can communicate it by actually talking to them. And remember, all the experience you have outside of copywriting, you bring that with you. Sometimes you just need some clever reframes of the work you've done to pull out the skills that make you a great copywriter. And I think Joe Kletke said this once when he came into Confident Copywriting. He said, clients aren't hiring you to write words. They're hiring you for the way you think. And all the work you've done before now, that's all part of that. So let's just free up this idea that you need a whopping great big portfolio in order to be a credible choice for customers. So I'm just going to double check for questions. Thank you for playing along, Amanda. I really appreciate it. Now, a question that you might have thought of that seems like a natural follow-on is, well, how do you make yourself credible, right? So credibility markers are things like a relatively decent website that looks relatively professional and doesn't have any glaring errors in it, right? Stop saying right, Belinda. So, marketing that doesn't look like a 5-year-old put it together. Credibility markers are any courses you've taken or certifications you've got or awards you've won, right? And you might not have those early on, but when you're in learning mode, put those courses up there because that says I took my education seriously. So we've got, reasonably professional looking marketing that can still be very streamlined and simple, but is error-free and is easy to look at. Awards, courses, industry bodies that you belong to, memberships that you belong to, all those kind of logos. That's good. Talking about your process makes you credible because that shows that you actually have a process. When clients are looking to make choices around this person or this product or this product, they're looking to reduce their sense of risk and anxiety. So when you talk about how you do things, that informs me in a way that is helpful in making me feel less anxious. Therefore, that makes you a more credible and trustworthy choice for me, right? Now, you might, in different industries than copywriting, you might have guarantees around shipping, manufacturing, customer service, satisfaction, all those kind of things. They boost credibility. But another big influence is you sharing who you are and what you're about, your core values and the values of your business. That makes you a credible choice too. So don't worry too much about the portfolio pieces. There's lots of different ways that you can make yourself a credible choice. But also, I want to repeat this tip. Leads from networks and relationship building will convert faster and easier than anything else. So network with other people in your industry and let them know that you are available for overflow work and subcontracting and things like that. Go and network with your ideal clients and let them know that you are available. Become the copywriter people know, okay? And that is how you will get leads faster and easier than SEO, still do SEO, and your portfolio building, still do it, but just don't stress about it. So, Amanda, thank you. I have a question. How to say no to a poor fit client and sticking to boundaries. Good one. Really good one. Okay, so there's two parts to this. Saying no to a poor fit client is super easy. As soon as you get an information, like you might have a spidey sense about this, it might be a gut and you think, no, I'm just being weird. I'm just being fearful, because sometimes the gut of this is not the right person for me and gosh, I'm nervous. Am I good enough? Can feel like the same thing. I've always had trouble stripping those feelings apart. They're kind of like nervous and excitement. You're like, am I nervous or am I excitement? Or is it both? Like, am I a little bit afraid or is my gut telling me that something's wrong? They can feel the same. So it's important to ask questions. And sometimes it's really important to get on the phone with people to, like, if your spidey sense is going off, get on the phone with them and have a chat. That will really cement things. Ask lots of questions. As soon as you know when you're like, they're asking me for something that I don't do, they're not ethically aligned with my cause and values, another great reason to turn people away. They don't have the budget, or they're just a bit of a twat and I don't want to work with them. 4 legitimate, totally legitimate reasons why you might go, thanks, but no thanks. The phrase you want to use is, I'm not the copywriter for you. That's it. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me and share all the news and information you have about your new website rebrand. I'm not the copywriter for you. What you don't say is, I'm sorry, I'm not the copywriter for you. And the reason I say that is women, especially, are auto apologizers. You do not have to apologize for not being the right fit. You just say, I'm not the right copywriter for you on this project. Now, what you can do is have a list of people that you can refer work onto. Now, obviously not if they're a twat. Don't pass twats down the stream. But if you're like, oh, you want an annual report? That's not something I offer. So I'm not the copywriter for you, but I do know someone who does that. Let's do budget. Oh, it looks like I'm going to be out of your price range for this project. So I'm not the copywriter for you, but I know several copywriters who are less experienced and so will have a lower rate. And I would be happy to pass them on to you because they are still great copywriters, right? So you just say, if there's a reason, you get to say, this is the reason I'm not the right copywriter for you. And then hopefully you offer a solution. If they're a twat, you get to say, I'm not the right copywriter for you for this project. So I will have to pass. Or I will have to pass. I will have to say no. Just remember, no is a complete sentence. You're allowed to say no, and you don't have to justify why. They might say, can I ask why? And you might say, I don't think we're a good fit for each other personality-wise. Right? So these are the kind of things that you might want to actually practice. This is how I get past my nerves talking to people, especially in the early years. And I don't know if you know this about me, but I talk a lot and I tend to ramble a little bit. I'm not very good with silence, which is things I've had to practice. And the way I've fixed that is to rehearse. And so I imagine the conversation going down the best possible route, but also the conversation going down the worst possible route. And I have some little lines ready. And then I also remember to stop and smile and have some silence, right? So that's often what you need to do after you say no. Stop, smile, have some silence. You don't even need to smile, though, to be honest. Women, you don't have to smile. So I hope that helps, Amanda. And when it comes to sticking to boundaries, we were talking about this in confident copywriting. People pleasing. I'm a people pleaser. So many of us are people pleasers. And when someone asks, we say yes, even when it's not aligned, even when it's not in the budget, right? Even when it's not work we do, because we don't know how to say no. So there's that phrase, I'm not the copywriter for you. And that's all you have to say. And when it comes to sticking to your boundaries, this is just a muscle that you just have to keep getting better at. And it might be a matter of sticking a Post-it note up. If you think you are getting on a discovery call with a client you might say yes to and you don't want to say yes to, you stick something up on the wall and say, this client is not for you. You are not the right copywriter for them. Make space for your dream clients. And for me, that little visual, I'm mimicking like there's a wall behind my computer, but there's not. That visual reminder is enough to keep me on track. I love these kind of visual clues of Post-it notes and little notes for myself to keep me on track. But recognize that you're not going to nail it all the time. Boundary setting is a muscle and it's constantly being worked. But no is a complete sentence. You do not have to say yes to projects that you do not want to do. And every time you say no, you are making space in your calendar for clients who are the right fit. Lovely question, Amanda. All right. Let us. I'm trying to practice my copywriting skills. Awesome. But stuck on getting started with the process. For example, if you have your research, purpose, and call to action for a promotional email, how do you start? This is a great question too. Excellent. So you've got all the information. You're clear on the objectives. You know who you're talking to. You know what's stopping them from saying yes. You know what your call to action is. You have a buffet of information. And then you find yourself staring at the blank page. Right. So this is actually a lot easier than you think. The key is to map it out, right? Map it out, write it up, edit it down. That's how I do it. Okay. So, how do you map it out? I like to start with a copywriting framework. That's why formulas and frameworks are so freaking useful. You might not follow it to the letter, but it gives you chunks on the page to kind of fill in, right? I like pain, agitate, outcome, solve. That's often where I start. Okay. And then I might go, actually, I'm going to do outcome, pain, a little agitation, solution, right? So I'm going to mix it up, but I start with a basic kind of framework and then I just put bullets in. This is where I'm often taking information from the brief and just copying it in. I'm putting in some brainstorming work that I have done from my research, but just bullets. I'm not writing. And the reason I'm doing that is that it is a whole lot easier to move things around on the page when it's bullets. As soon as you have to unpick paragraphs, it becomes tricky because you begin, the more you write, the more wedded you are to your words. And it's really hard to unpick one or two great sentences out of a paragraph. So editing becomes harder. But when you map it out in bullets first, you're like, I was going to do pain, agitate, solve, outcome, but actually now I see it. I think it'd be better to have pain, agitate, outcome, solve. And I'm going to do high level benefits, features, call to action. Actually, I'm going to put a testimonial in there. Actually, I'm going to do pain, agitate, outcome, solve, testimonial, high level benefits. Features, testimonial, call to action, guaranteed testimonial, right? And this is how you build it up in layers and layers. And you're like, okay. And then you're kind of with each layer you're adding, you're immersing yourself in the copy. And so you're getting into the flow a little more. I never start at the top. So when I've done my map, I'm kind of in the flow a bit. Then I start with the easy things, the things I know. Call to action, we'll do that first. The offer, we'll do that first because I know what it is. Guarantee, I'll do that first. Sometimes I do the FAQ first, right? Because that gives me a deep dive into the questions, the pains, the problems, the objections, right? And then I tend to kind of work up the page. And then I end up with the hero statement, the pain and agitate, and the future pacing. They're the top of the page is where you are hooking people in and you are engaging them and you are telling them, I get you. This is where you are, but don't worry. I've got you. This is where I'm going to take you, and keep reading for how you do it. So I hope that helps, Led, and I hope I've said your name correctly. Map it out, write it up, start with the easy stuff, the stuff you know, and then edit it down. Foolproof. Great question. All right, so I'm just going to pop over to the group and double check. As I said, if you've got questions, we can keep going. But if not, we can wrap it up pretty soon. All right, cool. So Les says, excellent. Thanks very much. I'm confusing myself with information overwhelm. You know what? It's so easy. Don't beat yourself up about it, especially when you're working with clients who give you 50 metric tons of information. And you're like, oh my God, how do I even process all of this? You have to do a skim read through, pull out the nuggets, and then just work with that. And I will say more often than not, and this is a question. Hi, Shauna. This is a question that we talked about in my Confident Copywriting group. Like, how much research do you add to a project? And my answer was as little as possible. Not because you don't do it, but here's the thing, right? When you're uncertain, you research. When you don't have a good brief, you research. And more often than not, what happens is, sidebar, I'm not talking about tone of voice research. I'm not talking about voice of customer research. I'm just talking about like competitor analysis and kind of searching Google forever research, right? When you're doing that, you're watering down the the potential for ideas. You're watering down the clarity that you had from the brief. Focus on getting a really good brief from your client. And then write copy with what you know, and then use research to fill the gaps, right? So that's what I always do. Write with the voice of the customer in my head, right from the brief that I have, and the brief also including all the material that they sent me, right from that, and then go, all right, where are the gaps? What do I need to know? Can I ask the client that, or do I need to do external research? Now, there are some topics, like really technical topics, that you do need to do a lot of research with. But here's the thing. If I am writing about self-managed super funds, it's not often that I need to actually need to understand level 10 detail about self-managed super funds. I need to understand the end benefit for the customer. I need to understand why they would want to consider this, why they haven't done it before, and the ultimate benefit and outcome of them doing that. I'm not going to find that in self-managed super fund technical white papers. I don't need to know it. So it's really important to ask yourself, what do I actually need to know to write the copy? Unless you're writing a white paper, of course. Right, I don't know who you are, but let's say, how about rather ridiculous changes because someone's on an ego trip? When do you start kicking back? And I'm just going to say, oh, Hisham, right. Hi, just pop over to the Facebook group. Hi, Hisham. Right, so this is all about process control, not because you're on a power trip, but you need to limit this kind of things. If someone's on an ego trip, it's their copy. It's their money. That's fine. But as part of your proposal, you say, there are 2 rounds of revisions included in the project. You get version 1, you get to submit revisions. You get version 2, you get to submit revisions. And then you get a final version. Sometimes you'll get done before then. But what they need to do and what you need to communicate to your client is revisions are not endless. There are 2 rounds. So they need to collate their feedback within those revision rounds. Once the third version is created, extra revisions cost money, and you have that in your terms and conditions. And you communicate that on your discovery call or in your email chat. You communicate it in the proposal. You explain it again on your kickoff call. So it's really clear and they understand what they have to do in order to maximize you as their copywriter. If they want to have an ego trip and pay you an hourly rate to add extra revisions, fine, right? Hi, Shauna. I have a quick question. I'm editing and proofreading a 50,000 word book that is awful and reads more like a diary, or this is what I do, but it's not different to a million other books out there. Do I say anything? Yes. Now, this is a question. The question I have is, what did they hire you to do? I think there's a point you can say to someone when you get the book, hopefully you're quite early in the process, is you can say, I've just had a quick read and I think you would benefit from making some structural changes to this book. I think you would benefit from coming up with a stronger hook and a stronger premise for this book. Because at the moment, it's not dissimilar to a lot of other books on the market. So as early as you can, flag that. And you can say, before I proceed, it's my professional opinion that this book can benefit from some conceptual work. Now, okay, she's accepting, right? Then this point you go, I can keep going through this and I can make it readable, I can make it flow, and I can fix up typos and proofreading. I can absolutely do that. Because here's the thing, Shauna, 10,000 words in. Okay, so I would tap out and have this conversation right now. She's still going to owe you for the work you've done. But the more you go in, the more rework there is. So she's going to be less interested in doing that. She might not want a bestseller. This might not be her life opus. This might just be a marketing tool for her, where she's like, I don't really care if it's not different. I don't really care if it doesn't have a premise and a hook that will make it unmistakably, awesome to people. This is just a marketing tool that fits into my funnel. All right, she's paid 3/4. Okay, so if she's already paid 3/4, she's probably unlikely to reverse backwards. People are very unwilling to go back once they've started moving forward. Or if it took her over a year to write, it's her baby. Okay. Then, it's tricky. You know what? I think you just push on. Some people, like in your professional opinion, on what your conversation you've had with her, would she be hurt to find out it's a terrible book? Or would she be like, that's exactly what I need to hear? Because obviously there are book editors who work on hooks and premise and concepts and outlines. That's what they do. I don't know if that's part of what you do, right? If you think she would be crushed, if she is already halfway through, if she has simply asked you to do an edit and proofread, and you think she's pretty unlikely to go back and do the work to make this amazing, then I would spare her that, to be honest. And I would just do the job you're being paid for. Oh, she's a copywriter. Oh, now I'm curious. That's a shame. So this is where, how do we tell people that this is not good? There are so many books who aren't different to any other books out there, but you know what? If she has a tribe of people, they might buy it and eat it up anyway. Sometimes someone's story just told in their way is enough, right? So yes, I would leave it. I would do the job she's paying you for, and I would trust that her people will love it because it's her telling her story. Sometimes that's enough, right? I think you're too far in. I think her feelings will be hurt. It's okay to save people's feelings. Hang on. I gotta go all the way back here. Good question, Shauna. Yes, you're welcome. I'm dying to know who it is now. All right, I have another one. I think, is this, let me just see. I think this is Hisham, but I'm just going to pop you up here. All right, I'm just keeping an eye on the time here. How about clients who were too lazy to fill in the briefing document? That means more discovery for me and that racks up the costs. And selling discovery hours to clients is a challenge. Easy. If a client doesn't have the time or the inclination to complete the brief, and I've got a sidebar here on this, then that is a big red flag. They are not, you can't move forward. Every time I have a client skip the brief or skip the commencement invoice, it always goes badly. So I never do it. I'm sorry if you can't make the time to fill in the brief. Now, here's the sidebar, right? You have to tell clients that this work is a collaborative project. You write the copy, but they have to basically download their brain and their knowledge and their experience and their wisdom and their passion and their purpose into your brain. They have to know that that takes time. They have to know that they have to be there for that process. But here's some things, right? You can't expect a client who's hiring you to be for your ability to write to give you a wonderful written brief. The fact that they are looking for a copywriter will tell you that they either can't or won't spend time crafting clear, written, like information, right? So this is what I do. I send them the brief and say, have a crack at it. Do your best. Put as much information in it. Give me the longest answers you possibly can. And do as much as you can. If you can't answer all the questions, because there are some pretty big questions, if you can't answer them all, don't worry. We're going to jump on the call and we're going to talk it through. And the reason I like to do that is I want to hear them. But the other reason is that as soon as you get people talking, that's when you get the gold. So what I like to do is take their answers and ask more questions, right? Get them talking so I can hear how they phrase things, specific wording that they use, the rhythm and cadence of their language. But it also helps me ask more questions. So I get them to fill out the written brief as best as they can, but I don't expect very much. I have a written phone call to talk it through, but they need to bring it for both of those. They need to put aside time. And what it can help you do is say, here is the written brief. I would set aside 30 to 60 minutes to have a go at this. And what I've actually included is a free Starbucks coffee. So you can go and have a coffee while you do it, right? A little value add there. Let them know how long you think it will take. And then we're going to jump on a 60-minute call and talk it through. This is why, right? So don't just rely on the written brief. And if they say, I haven't got time to fill out the form, I haven't got time to jump in a call, can't you just look at my competitors and get the information from them? You say, I'm not the copywriter for you. The copywriting brief is an absolutely essential part of a copywriting project. And I'm not willing to start the project without it because I cannot write exceptional copy for you without this briefing in place. And then you bless and you release, right? It's as simple as that. It sounds simple. All right. But you have to keep these conversations tight. If you're jumping on the call with someone, it's not a 2-hour call. You keep it tight, which means you read what they've got. You have pointed questions. You get them talking. You get the information. And then you end, right? And that can take some practice. That can absolutely take some practice. Hisham asked, would you normally charge for a couple of discovery calls separately as a line item? I never have line items in the proposal, right? So what I have is what the service is, the label of it, website copywriting, for example, a little blurb about website copywriting and why it's essential in modern day marketing, etc. And then I have an outline of the scope, 5 pages, including what they are. You always got to have the scope. And then I would have a list of bullets of the inclusions. Smart, snappy copywriting, 400 to 500 words or 300 to 500 words per page. I would say a copywriting brief, written and phone call. Copywriting, 300 to 500 words per page. If it's, got an SEO component, I would say title and description tags, unique title and description tags for each page. I would have project and administration time, 30 minutes of phone calls during the project, and professional proofreading. Total investment, price, right? So there's no line item of charging. There's no how much of this, how much of that. Can we take the proofreading out? Can I take one round of visions out? What if we don't have any more phone calls? No. It's a full package, and that's what it is, right? Then extra phone calls beyond the 30 minutes. So if you have a client who's trying to micromanage you, they have 30 minutes, right? If they want to be jumping on the phone all the time, extra phone calls are charged extra. Extra revisions, charged extra, right? So you have to put this in your terms and conditions and lay it out in your proposal. But there's a brief and there's a phone call and there's research, but it's all just included. There's no line items. All right. Hi, Crystal. I heard you mention on the Hot Copy podcast, thanks for listening, that you have the client sign off on the copy brief. Yes. Is this an actual sign off or an email acknowledgement or something else? Just verbal sign off. I mean, written sign off for me. Be clear, Belinda. Okay. So I generally say, because I never used fancy proposal software or fancy briefing software, there are some really awesome tools that let you do that. And at the bottom, they can electronically sign it, which is brilliant. But if you don't have that, you can keep the tech really simple. All I would just say is hit reply and let me know in writing that you approve the copywriting brief. And then I would put in my project checklist, brief approved and the date, right? So I just need it in writing. And the reason I need it in writing is that so if the project went tits up for some reason, I can go back and say, here is where you approved the brief in writing. So this is the information I was working from. The other reason you want the brief approved is that, yes, you can go back to it and say, you confirm that this is all the information that I was working from. And so then if they don't like the first version, you can go back and say, let's go through the brief and make sure all the information is still correct and accurate and relevant. So you can quickly go through that, right? And then you can go through the copy and say, now let's go through the copy. Because more often than not, if a client doesn't like the copy, it's not the whole copy. It's just maybe a word, a paragraph, a sentence, right? So we need to step through, but it starts with stepping through the brief, because I have had on a number of occasions walking through the brief again, they go, oh yeah, that's right. I did tell you that. Right. Yeah. Okay. No, it's actually, it's good. That is what I asked you to do. Yes, it is. Right. So that's it. But whenever you can keep it simple, keep it simple. Just have it in writing. Shauna says, I have them approved in Asana as well if we've used it along the project timeline. So there are Wizzy tools that you can use. All right. Great questions, everyone. I'm just going to double check. I'm just going to do a little refresh. So remember, if you're watching the replay, drop hashtag replay. Hey, Sham, it's not bombardment. Okay. I'm going to put it up here. How would you scale if you're up to your ears? Pass on to a college without fear or favor, hire a junior copywriter and train them. Okay, there's got a couple of options here. Pass the lead on, or just say no, I'm busy, right? That's one option. You're missing a trick there. You can have a group of people that you refer work onto, right? And there's a couple of ways you can manage it. You can just give them the lead and contribute to the good juju in the copywriting industry. That's what I've always done. You can pass on the lead and ask for a referral payment, which is often between 10 and 20% of the final project amount. Another totally legit arrangement that should have no guilt about it, because you have done the hard work of bringing the lead in and you are gifting it to someone. So a referral payment back to you is totally legit. Or you can start building a team of people you refer work onto, but you keep them in-house, right? So they basically, you subcontract the work out to, they write it for you as a white label option, and you present it as copywriting from your business. So there's a couple of options. Okay. Okay. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. All right. We're going through shoes, working out which ones fit and which ones don't. So just to be clear, Hisham, a couple of those options. You can say no. You can pass it on with no referral payment. You can pass it on with a referral payment, or you can basically do a white label subcontracting arrangement. The thing is, you are responsible for the quality of the copy. So you have to find someone who's cheap enough that it's not a loss for you, but is good enough that you don't have to spend all the time rewriting. Because if you spend all the time rewriting, you may as well not do it. Right? So there's a couple of different options. But one thing I will say, and we did have a Hot Copy podcast all about this subcontracting. It sounds really enticing. I was like, I'm going to build an agency, right? I'm going to have a team of people. And I had like 5 or 6 copywriters I would subcontract work out to, a white label, and present to clients. And I ended up spending all my time as a project manager and an editor rewriting copy. It was not a profitable use of my time. I had almost zero profit margin on it. And so I stopped doing it, because I realized a more profitable way to spend my time was me writing the copy. No margins, no one else taking a chunk. It all came back to me. So that's something to think about. And then different ways to scale, questions for another day. Oh, all right. So Hisham says, could never do that. It's like giving you your core strengths to become a manager. Yes, that's it. That's it. A lot of admin, a lot of project manager. Okay, fantastic questions, everyone. Now, this replay will live in the For the Love of Copy group in the event. I'll put the link up there, and it also lives on YouTube as well. So if you've been watching, leave hashtag replay. I would love to hear any nuggets or insights that you've gone, that is something I was writing down. Give me what really stood out to you in today's call. And I would like to thank everyone who asked questions and played along and tuned in and has been chatting and has just been here to spend some time with me. So we will, of course, have another AMA next month. But if you follow me on Instagram at Copyright Matters, I'm doing these little mini AMAs all the time. So that's a great place to check out. So I hope you have a fantastic day, everyone, and I'll see you on the flip side. I'm Belinda Weaver, and I'll see you another day.